Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy Podcast. My name is Jed and we are in the Jesus and Socrates, a dialogue in heaven text today. It's a banger. It's a banger. What more is there to say? It's a banger of a book. Now, one reason it's a banger is we have outlined from Socrates a completely rational, systematic, easy to understand principle of how to understand all Abrahamic religions. Not only that, all other kinds of groups that fit within the same class. So we can put an end to the childish, barbaric discussion of whose personal opinions about what God wants you to do is right, whether it's Jesus or Muhammad or Moses. Let's all just kill each other and that will somehow solve that debate. Nope, don't need to anymore. We can just use understanding. We can simply understand the nature of all of them. Don't have to pick a team. You can understand all of them. That's the thing about understanding. It's the only thing that can bring us together. People with differing or opposing beliefs, they can't come together. Understanding can, because understanding is true and universal. That's why it's so rad. It's not a matter of an opinion. I don't care how many people you've put to death in the name of your religion. Doesn't make it more true or less true. Doesn't help with understanding. So we've understood, we've been developing an understanding of these traditions, these belief systems, using the simple building blocks, Lego pieces of understanding itself. Whole and part. You're offered to become a part of a whole. What's the selling point? Well, first we'll manufacture guilt by telling you that you are a sinner. We will create a world where you feel isolated and estranged from people because it's a world separated by different groups and beliefs. We will tell you a story, a made-up story about God punishing you for that thing we told you you were a sinner. And we'll tell you another fairy tale about the whole world coming to an end. Oh my God, look at how scary our lives are. Now, if you join our group and pay $29.99 a month, if you join our group, we will magically take away that fear by telling you God won't kill you. We will magically take away your guilt by saying you are forgiven. And we'll magically take away that feeling of estrangement by making you a part of a greater whole. There we go. That's the grift. That's the sales pitch. You're offering to become a part of a greater whole. Part and whole. You will get over your feeling of estrangement by being same as other people. Sameness. Your sameness will be because you will be limited. You are not allowed to think certain things or act in certain ways or associate with certain people or have certain kinds of relationships. We will force limitations and sacrifices upon you. Limit. And in that way you'll be alike. You'll be like each other. But the state of mind of a believer will be in conflict because it doesn't actually meet those promises. You still feel estranged because even though you're supposedly like them, you don't feel that way. You feel unlike everyone else there. You are supposed to be part of a whole, but you still feel different than everyone else there. You're supposed to be absolved of your sins, but those false beliefs about you being evil are still there. Just because some guy in a robe says you are forgiven, it's still there. And the fear of the afterlife based on these false beliefs is still there too. Because fundamentally, they all reject self-reflection, ousia, and logos, or understanding. The two things needed to actually remove our fear, because it addresses those false beliefs that we believe about ourselves in reality, that we are bad and reality is bad, God is bad and vengeful, and we are bad sinners. That's the fear of punishment from an evil God. Well, it's literally evil, because punishment is evil. Punishment is not evil, bad. But they say a loving God is actually one who inflicts violence irrationally. Punishment is a bad thing always. So, a false belief about the nature of reality, God being bad dude, and a false belief about yourself, you are innately a sinner, innately evil. You caused Jesus to die, that kind of thing. Self-reflection and understanding removes the cause of that. Rejected from belief traditions. And the other thing, the sense of estrangement. What is it that brings us together? Well, within oneself, ousia, culminating in the highest experience of self-reflection, nous, the direct apprehension or the knowingness of yourself as God, as the divine, pure being, consciousness itself, and understanding, because understanding is what brings us together. It's for everyone can play, everyone benefits, and we can understand the aspects of being to derive a paradigm or a model that we can use in our lives, because we can understand and experience beauty itself, the true culmination of culminating experience of true understanding and loving relationships, and justice itself, self-beauty, self-justice, giving us a paradigm or model that is true, universal, directly knowable for all those able to endure that experience, and also understandable by everyone. Justice, beauty, a model that we can use for our souls and ourselves and our relationships forever. No matter where we are, when we are, or even beyond this lifetime. And, by extension, what we must demand from all political and spiritual leaders. So, ousia and logos would actually fulfill those promises offered by belief, but they are explicitly rejected, keeping people in a state of internal conflict, which again manifests in the world. We live in a world full of external conflict caused by the internal conflict, in large part caused by these Abrahamic beliefs and other things within that class. So, neat. Part, whole, limit, same, different, like, unlike, conflict, ousia, logos, or the lack of those. Simple. What a neat guy this Socrates is. Now, the next question Jesus asked was, what if you were in those things and you fell out of them? Now you're just other. You're just different. You're all other than each other. And the only kind of likeness or sameness is you are a mass. A mass, what's the word? Indiscriminate mass. No thinking, no discrimination. You can't understand differences. Your judgments are made arbitrarily. You're a mass of differences. That's it. You're just a mass of differences, no sameness. Because if you were a sameness, well, you could form a group, right? Isn't that what you just left? So the atheists or left-wingers who are responding to the fascism of right-wingers, often they end up like this. And not always. There are different sorts of atheism and different sorts of progressivism. True progressivism would be seeking that universal ideal through logos and self-reflection, logos and ousia. But if you were in religion and you just dropped out, this is where you'd be. Other from each other, no sameness, no group identity, which is fine, but you have no actual paradigm or principles upon which to base your decisions. So you can only you retreat to the apparent safety of only making particular judgments. This is what's true for me. Hey, how many American Democrats are getting money from the genocide people? AIPAC. Hey, if that's their decision, let them. How many Democrats are doing insider trading? If that's their decision, let them. I thought you were supposed to be opposed to genocide. I thought you were supposed to be opposed to corruption. How many Democrats, who's that guy going against Zohan Mamdani? Isn't he completely paid off by the billionaires to trying to stop people to afford fucking housing and food? For the Democrats, I thought you were supposed to try and help people have a house and food. It's arbitrary. No principle. Completely arbitrary. But safe. Hey, I didn't say anyone was right or wrong. I'm also not speaking out against genocide or extreme wealth inequality or the existence of billionaires, but I'm not making anything. Hey, don't look at me. So that's what happens when we fall out of that group-based. I'll go downward. Yes. So only unlike, only differences, no unity, just a mass of differences. So like, unlike, just unlike. Same, different, just different. Whole, part, just parts. So we've gone from a conflict between these self-logos pairs to just the negative. Not the negative, just the lesser. Just apart. Just different. Just unlike. And of course, still no ousia and logos. That's a big problem. Right, so where do we go from there? Because we're only, a quarter of the way through almost? 7 times 4 is, we're not quite a quarter of the way through. Oh, and this book has already given us so much. Praise the heavens for this book. So at the end of that massive differences, they are still unlike each other, only sense of separateness, no contact, but again, they still are unable to discover the root of their problems because their former belief that they've dropped out of had no place for ousia, self-reflection, that leads to self-discovery, so no logos as well, and they continue to deny that power in themselves. We would say that they lack what we call ousia, which is the intellectual power to know the self and the nature of reality. Wouldn't you want to know what you are? Have you ever been curious? What is the self? I mean, you can perceive things, you can experience things happening to you, but what's the experiencer? What is it happening to? Where were you before you had this kind of experience in this incarnation? Where are you going after? And by the way, where are you finding yourself? What is this reality? Ousia is the intellectual power to know the self and nature of reality. Isn't it interesting that these Abrahamic religions, the first thing they do is say, not for you, not for you. You can't know the nature of self and reality. What a terrible, terrible grift. So, nature of self and reality. Jesus' response, that's oh yeah, I have a little bit of self in my tradition. If you look at the opening paragraph, so long as you read the ancient Greek translation, there is a Balboa translation of the opening of John. If you read the opening paragraph, you do see John start with, all things came to be through self, and apart from self, autos, not one thing came to be. So we do see the word self there, but then it's quickly abandoned. So I kind of have a little bit of a taste of what you're talking about with the importance of knowing the self, says Jesus. Socrates says, well, let's get into the idea of self a little bit later. But now, let's talk about this. There is something in man that knows that when he is asked to believe in something, if he accepts that belief, he also accepts another belief. Well, first of all, in accepting the belief, it changes him. Belief moves the soul in a certain way. It changes one's vision to its opposite, a limited vision. Beliefs constrict, limit. Remember the definition of believers? They're limited. For all belief, when it's urged upon us, comes with another belief, and that is that it's true. So we already know that's garbage because truth is ousia, nous, apprehended through ousia. Beliefs ain't. There are different kinds of beliefs, but the kind we are talking about is believing something is true when there is not only nothing to support it, but in principle, it's impossible for there to be anything to support it. That's where we are. Supernatural beliefs. Hey, there's an invisible man that you can't see standing on my shoulder. Believe it. What's the proof? No, I told you he's invisible. In principle, you can't prove it. That's faith. Sounds crazy, doesn't it? Well, not only crazy, but harmful. Let's keep going. Bring in our actors. Socrates continues. The effect of this has on the soul is that it experiences a limitation on its very being. Holy crap. Put that in green. Accepting the irrational as primary makes the use of the mind frivolous. Now that's a quote. Hey, tell me, can you define the nature of Abrahamic religions? Yeah, it's accepting the irrational as primary, which makes the use of the mind frivolous. Put that on a bumper sticker. Simply the presence of being a self. Simply the presence of being a self no longer is important, since the irrational looms over all. The belief separates oneself from all else, and it has a mode of existing that by itself suspends the rational desire to understand. Going to be highlighting a lot because these are all banger lines. The presence of being a self is no longer important since the irrational looms over all. Belief separates oneself from all else and suspends our rational desire to understand. Remember the question from yesterday or last episode? Is understanding for everyone, or are some people okay with belief? Should we allow people to be believers? Should we say, oh, there are some people just too dumb to understand? Nope. We all have the rational desire to understand. We are all here to know the self. The idea that some people can't play is sick. Literally, it's a pathologos, or of the same kind of nature as a pathologos. Everyone can play. But, of course, so beliefs are not neutral. The other implication behind that question is, hey, beliefs are harmless. Shouldn't we allow some beliefs? For some people, get their morals and ethics from religious beliefs? They're harmful. No, they're not harmful. Sorry, they're not neutral. They are harmful. Specifically, they fucking harm us. They're the cause of our problems, individually and collectively. This whole thing, this whole left-wing bullshit thing is the result of simply falling out of beliefs without learning to understand beliefs. This is the importance of this text. This is why it's a banger. If you don't understand beliefs and you just say, well, I'm not a religious person, that's not enough. Because you have not got a model for understanding. You don't understand what you fall out of. You can't make general statements or principles. So all of the politicians are corrupt because they don't have principles. Literally, principles should be universal. We don't even know the idea of what a principle is or a paradigm. It's the logos. How many people do you know use that word? I've seen like one or two online and they don't even use it the right way. They use it to justify their own beliefs, which is interesting. This is how important it is. And if you don't understand beliefs, you can have the false belief that beliefs are neutral. One of my shortcut buttons turns off my soundboard, and I just found it. I just noticed that sometimes it goes off.
Too stupid to understand, and also refusing to understand. Why not both, right?
Relevant. Because you'll walk away with the false belief that beliefs are innate. You won't realize that they're not innate. They are specifically harmful. They are the cause of human problems and suffering. This whole let's be polite and not challenge beliefs. No, we need to. Now what we're seeing is this kind of belief, that which there can't be evidence for in principle, religious or supernatural beliefs, suspends our rational desire to understand. That's the key. It makes being a self not important. So there goes the sanctity of human life that we've thrown under the bus as a culture. It makes accepting the irrational as primary, makes the use of the mind frivolous. That's why we don't care about the use of the mind. And of course, it actively undercuts our own human rational desire to understand what we are born with, and we all have. Let's get back to Socrates. Each believer intuitively knows all other believers in the same system experience this difference in their state of mind, both within themselves and with others, and that gives them a limitation. If ever they are free from the belief, they re-experience the freedom from the limitation of belief. Within themselves, they experience at the same time being limited by the belief, and they also know that without the belief, they would experience a freedom or a sense of the limitless. These two states have an effect on believers. Hey, welcome, Sus. Pikachu. I got a Pikachu there. Pikachu. Two states have an effect on the believers, for they are opposites. Whee! My spirit animal. Gohan going Super Saiyan level 2. Welcome. How are you going today? Within themselves and with others, they experience a state of a sense of togetherness, but at the same time, within themselves, they experience an opposition. Oh, welcome. Welcome, Tonya. Jesus and Elijah returned as women and marry soon. Jesus is female in gender, Elijah is male. I've never heard that before. Selling the gospel is a sin against the Bible and against God. Oh, Jesus. See, what you're doing is you are expressing your opinions. You will not find another person on this planet with the same opinions as yours. In other words, your personal beliefs, you will see and you will feel are going to be different. See, as much as you keep typing, no one's going to agree with you. And the thing is, even if you were right, you lack what you need to change people's minds. Because people in religion, they don't learn it. They get it from childhood. Because religion, and by definition, is to believe the irrational. So you can't learn it through reason. Right? That's why they go to a lot of effort to instill fear and guilt. Now, if your opinions, if they happen to be true, then you have a responsibility to learn understanding. Because the thing with understanding is you can communicate the truth to others. Because understanding is universal. In other words, when you go to school, you pay money because you want to understand how to fix an engine if you're learning to be a mechanic. You want to understand how to do surgery if you want to be a surgeon. So, no one's going to care about your beliefs. Now, that might be part of your group. The feeling of being limited or rejected by people. When I vomit my opinions that nobody asked for, and I be a jerk, people don't like me being a jerk. Nobody asked for my opinions. They don't agree with my opinions. And my opinions are probably wrong. But when people say that, you might feel, oh, I'm attacked. And that feeling you may have been taught is what to associate with being saved or being special. Okay? So, how rational people interact with each other is through understanding. Because everybody can understand. You don't have to be born Mormon or Muslim or Jewish or... Understanding. So what we're learning on this channel is how do we learn understanding? How do we learn to think properly? And how do we learn to use that thinking to understand the nature of self and reality? Not belief, understanding. Not opinions, understanding. And then, once we're able to understand the truth about this or that, how do we communicate it in a way where other people can hear it and benefit from it? Not by forcing them, by yelling at them, do what I say or you're gonna die. No. That's bullying. That's tyranny. It's a bad kind of person. A bad kind of soul. You wouldn't like it if someone pointed a gun at your head and said, do what I say, otherwise I'm going to shoot you in the head, right? Similarly, we're not telling you what to think. Because if you insist on people believing something without reason, you're limiting them, you're doing them harm. They have to have understanding behind what they see. Otherwise, their own sense of being a self is no longer important because the irrational beliefs that people have insisted on looms over all. If what I think and what I see doesn't matter, then I guess there's no importance in being a self. What about your mind? Isn't your mind important? Don't you want to know the reach of your mind? Don't you want to know if it goes beyond God or if you can experience the mind of God? Nope, not important, because I'm insisting through fear and intimidation that you accept my opinions. That's in your mind. It's nothing to do with me. So it rejects the mind of another person. It makes the self not important. And finally, to insist someone just listen to your dumb opinions or beliefs rejects or suspends the human desire to rationally understand. And that's what's most important, because it's understanding that we can use to solve problems. And it's understanding is what truly unifies us. Does that make sense? Let me scroll through. Okay, let me just... delete. Now, I wonder if I could do a mass delete. Because I only want to talk to people, Tonya, if they're willing to listen. Otherwise, it's kind of like a rapey thing. I'm going to force my will upon you without asking for your consent. So if you want to listen and respond to my questions, then you can stay. But if you're going to ignore me, then I'm going to give you a timeout. Because there are better people who are open and generous with their time and life energy and seeking understanding. And as we read earlier, okay, it looks like you're gone, so let's just time out. How do we do it? I don't know how to do it. Anyway. So we read earlier that good relationships are through love and logos. We even have an Etsy store coming up soon where Sus is going to make bumper stickers or fridge magnets or plushies or crochet something with little quotes. And one of the quotes is love and logos. We had another one earlier today. So, how do you know I crochet? Actually making little clay statues. Oh, great. I just guessed. So the question that Reeve asked yesterday was, is beliefs okay for some people? Like, surely beliefs are neutral and don't do any harm. So some people just don't want to understand. Or some people, maybe they're not able to understand. So maybe it's okay for some people to just be believers. But that's the question that we had on the table from yesterday. And in order to answer that, we raised another question. See, what we're doing now is we're understanding all of the Abrahamic. Working out for 2 hours. Good for you. So what we've been doing is we've been understanding the nature of all Abrahamic religions. Muslim, Jewish, and Christian. By using the principles of understanding. You're a part of a whole. You feel limited. You have to be limited in your actions, in what you think, and how you relate to people. That limit gives you a feeling of sameness with other people. But internally, you really feel like you're different, so you have a conflict. You're like them in that you're all limited in the same way. Like that Tonya was very limited. She couldn't listen. She couldn't learn. She couldn't relate as a good person. So there's all in a relationship. These are all limits. But she identifies with those limits. That shit way of being makes her a member of a group. The promise is, if she's a member of a group and she's like, notice, like, unlike, same, different, whole, part. These are the logos, parts of understanding. And Socrates is using them brilliantly to describe what it means to be a believer. By being limited, I feel like, I feel the same, but internally I feel different. And because belief rejects self-reflection, the Greek word for that, ousia, and understanding, the logos, you are not actually able to solve problems. Because you solve problems through understanding and self-reflection. You're not able to reach your highest spiritual goals. Because understanding is what we apply to being. And that's what awakens that higher. So ousia is self-reflection, but ousia is also mind turning upon itself directly to know yourself as the brilliant light of being, or the mind of God. You know yourself as eternity. So, ousia and logos are needed to A, solve problems, and B, reach your highest goals. And ousia and logos are rejected for believers. So they're never able to solve problems and they're never able to get what they really want. That's the conflict within the soul of every believer. Whether it's those 3 Abrahamic religions, or if there's a new religion tomorrow, we could say, oh yeah, Elon Musk, you want to start a new religion and make yourself God King? You don't have to. We know exactly what's going to happen. And the first thing is you're going to have a sales pitch. Number 1, you are all bad. You're a sinner. Feel guilty. Number 1. That's why you have problems, because you're a sinner and it's the devil and it's in your heart and you're bad. So you feel guilty. Create a problem, guilt. Also, you live in a world completely disconnected because understanding brings us together. So you feel lonely and different and lonely and on your own, and you feel guilty. Also, I'm going to tell you a story about a catastrophic end of the world where Jesus will come and smite all the non-believers. And if you don't join my group, you're going to go to hell. So I think even Tonya was saying, listen to what I say and feel bad about yourselves because it's going to be too late and the devil will come. So that's the pitch. A drama about the end of the world, instilling guilt and shame, and making people feel disconnected and alone. And then the promise is, if you join the group, we will solve all of these problems. They never do. They never do. The promise is, hey, you won't feel disconnected if you're a part of a group. But really, the only group you're a part of is having a feeling of being limited. I can't drink alcohol. I can't read books that are not Christian books. I can't hang out with the Muslims. I can't have sex before marriage. All limitations. I can't think for myself. I can't question the teachings. That doesn't really bring people together. And that feeling of guilt for having problems, that's always going to be there, because the solution is go to church and ask for forgiveness. That just becomes a ritual. You do it every week. I did a mistake, I'm sorry. But the problems don't go away because you need understanding and self-reflection to solve problems. And they don't have that. So now we have we have a decent understanding of the essence of all of these kinds of beliefs. You know what, with hell, it sounds cool. I'd rather go there, to be honest, because in hell you get what comes to you theoretically. But here on earth, you get punished for existing even if you do nothing wrong. Interesting. Well, the idea of hell is it's irrational. You don't actually get any benefit from being punished. It's a threat. It's a veiled threat. Do what I say or else the devil will burn your soul. No one can tell me war, a man-made construct for fighting over belief, is worse than the beliefs of hell. People, innocent. Well, that's the idea. Innocent people die and children die. So this is the thing. What's not offered in religion or belief and not offered in hell is understanding. What we are learning to do here is understand. What we are doing specifically is understanding a class of thinking that all sorts of people fall into. People bound by a group, bound by belief. I sneezed. So, if problems are solved through self-reflection and understanding, and if people can be united in rationality, maturity, and harmony through self-reflection and understanding, we need to find why the fuck do we not have ousia and understanding in our world? Why don't our politicians have ousia and understanding? Why don't our spiritual leaders have ousia and understanding? And why does no one within any belief-based group have ousia and understanding? Because if you reject those, you can't solve problems and you only have beliefs. Beliefs are wrong. They are always not true by definition, because we have a class of belief called right opinion, which is a bit different. Because beliefs are from other people. Truth is directly apprehended as knowledge or wisdom, or ousia. Ousia is apprehending truth. So if you say, I know the truth because of a belief, that's by definition a lie. And what we just read is beliefs Belief separates oneself from all else, and it has a mode of existing that by itself suspends the rational desire to understand. So the cause of the war and the children being put to death by these jerks is belief-based thinking. The solution to problems is don't just kill everyone who believes. That's their game. Because you can't prove belief. By definition, it is impossible for there to be any evidence to support an Abrahamic belief. You can't prove Jesus was king. You can't, any of that crap that Tanya vomited on us, you can't prove any of it. That's why she has no need to listen to me when I was trying to explain that you have to present your arguments rationally so we can follow. Doesn't matter what we say. She can't give any proof. That's the nature of belief. You can't prove it. This class of belief, supernatural belief, in principle. So how do you make the Jews right? Or how do you make the Christians right? Or how do you make the Anglicans right? Or how do you make the Mormons right? You can't. You have to threaten anyone who disagrees with you or kill them. That's why we have injustice and war. Belief, in particular, supernatural belief. Belief that can't be proven. So what do? They want to end the world. Because they can't actually understand problems, their solution is just blow everyone up. Kill everyone. Genocide everyone. That's a terrible solution. The better solution is understanding. That's what we're doing here. What we're doing here is learning to understand the nature of believers. So when we say, hey, there are innocent children being killed in your believer wars, we can say, and this is why. This is why. Because beliefs suspend the rational desire to understand. Beliefs remove ousia. So the two things needed to solve problems, ousia, self-reflection, understanding, logos, are wiped away by believers. That's the root cause of mass injustice and war. The removal of ousia and understanding, or logos. That's the cause. So if we want to put an end to children being murdered, we have to understand what kinds of things remove ousia and logos, number one, and number two, we'll do our best to master ousia and logos so we can share it with other people. Hey, this is the better way of being. Logos and ousia. A real Christian can't condemn other people to hell because technically that's God's job, and saying that they have the power of God, that's a no-no to Sky Daddy. Love, a former evangelist who studied the Bible. Right. Okay, but the other thing about that is this idea of sinners being sent to hell. That's Paul. That's not Jesus. See, we get a better account about Jesus' life from the Gospel of Mark, because Matthew and Luke copied Mark. But Paul came in and Paul gave us all of these ideas of Christianity. Paul was a guy who was stoning to death human beings for fun. And then he saw that Jesus was having teachings and he said, I'm going to be a wolf in sheep's clothing. I'm going to pretend to be speaking for Jesus. I'm going to remove everything he said and just put in a whole bunch of lies. So all of the things that Jesus didn't say, that Paul said, really reflect what we think Christianity is. And there are about 15 of them. See, the story of Mark has Jesus saying understanding is more important than belief. You can't love God without understanding. You can't see your neighbor as oneself without understanding. But Paul flipped it. Said, no, understanding is bad, belief is good. So this is what Paul said that Jesus didn't say. 1, Jesus is the only Son of God. Never said by Jesus. He is a pre-existing divine being. Nope, just made up by Paul. He died on the cross, and in doing so, he made an atonement for the sins of mankind. Nope. Jesus resurrected from the dead, and that marks the beginning of a cosmic catastrophe. There is no resurrection of Jesus in the story of Jesus. That was added hundreds of years later by the church and made up by Paul. And if you have a decent Bible, you'll see a footnote that says at the end of Mark, these next 12 things that talk about Jesus raising from the dead. It's not in there. The cosmic catastrophe, the saved believers will ascend to heaven and all the rest of life will be destroyed. No, made up. So when our friend Tanya came in and started vomiting her false beliefs, repent because the end of the world is near. This cosmic catastrophe, death will be abolished, and the demonic forces will lose their power. Never said by Jesus. Jesus' resurrection is to place him at the right hand of the Father, making him Lord and King. Nope. Further, Jesus will return on the clouds of heaven to redeem the saved and bring final judgment of man. Not said by Jesus, made up by Paul. From this time on, there will be no more suffering, sin, or death. That's the big promise, right? The promise that people say, join our group, and then your sin will magic away. Never said by Jesus, made up by Paul. Paul believed that all this would happen in his lifetime. So he also got it wrong. So all of this stuff that we accept as the fundamental principles of being a Christian, already proven wrong because it didn't happen in his lifetime. Those that join Paul's church, not Jesus's church, Paul made this up, and follow the rituals of baptism and eat the magic wafers of Eucharist will gain salvation after the resurrection. Nope, never said by Jesus, made up by Paul, the guy who enjoyed stoning Christians to death. By the way, he made this up. The saved become sons of God and gain eternal life with Jesus in heaven. Never said by Jesus. All of this was art carefully crafted and is repeated endlessly at church to lull to sleep the souls of his followers. He also said that he was commissioned by God, making him equal or even surpassing the importance of Jesus, wolf in sheep's clothing. And he says to his followers, beware of the sayings from any other gospels. In other words, ignore the New Testament. He said he was an apostle at God's call, yet none of his teachings report anything of what Jesus said, and he freely added what Jesus never said. He built a system of churches and departed from Jesus' teachings. And Socrates says, how come those who follow Paul, modern day Christians, don't realize that he was such a bullshit artist? And Jesus never answered that question. So that's our question. How come, considering how terrible... Oh, and by the way, the Gospel of Matthew and Luke copied most of Mark, and then John was aware of the drama between Mark, who was rejecting Paul, and Paul, who was rejecting Jesus, and Paul tried to combine Mark and Paul to save Paul. So those are the 4 Gospels kept in the modern Bible. And the letters of Paul, who of course, just made up all this shit. So the question Socrates asked, well, if that's so terrible and wrong and objectively gross and provably wrong, it didn't happen when he said it would, and Jesus didn't say any of that, how come modern Christians don't see Paul for the bullshit artist that he is? That's our question. Why are Christians so easily fooled by something so obviously wrong? That's the question. Jesus couldn't answer it. Yeah, and even there were people who said the end of the world was at Y2K in the Mayan calendar. That's another thing. That's something that we've also come across in our Is It All Relative book. These people are immune for criticism because once their predictions are proved wrong, they'll just push the date back. They can never be wrong. Which means they can't judge Paul as ever being wrong. Meaning they are always going to be lied to and grifted. Because they can't judge. They can't think. That's the question. Why are modern Christians so fucking stupid that they're listening to Paul and not Jesus? Those 15 principles we went through, none of them was said by Jesus. And Jesus said the opposite. It's like someone coming to your school, some health minister coming to your school and says, eat lots of fruits and vegetables, don't eat a lot of sugary sodas. And then the next day, someone else coming in from the Coca-Cola factory saying, yes, I'm with the health organization like that guy yesterday. And he was very true in what he said. You need to listen to him when he said never eat fruits and vegetables and only drink Coke every day. And in fact, we are building our whole school system on that. We're installing Coke vending machines all over the place. And you have to give money to Coke. That's literally how absurd modern Christianity is. So the question is, how come we don't see it? Were we not taught to read? Were we not taught to think? Were we not taught to reflect? Were we not taught to ask questions? No, we weren't. We were not taught how to read. Literally, they would murder you if you even had the book for the first 1,000 years. And if you're a woman, you're burned at the stake for even knowing how to read. So, you're not taught how to read. You're not allowed to ask questions. But fundamentally, there is no self-reflection, ousia. There's no understanding or logos. Therefore, you can be tricked by such an obvious con. Have you noticed there's a guy named Donald Trump who is such an obvious liar, grifter, con artist, sexist, racist, murderer, taking the money from all of the poor people, taking the health care from all the poor people, taking the food stamps from all the poor people, taking all the workers' rights from all the poor people, taking all the clean air and water from all the poor people. How the fuck are the poor people voting for him? He is the exact opposite of everything that would benefit them. He is clearly, obviously lying. How come they can't see it? Because his base are Christians. Trump's not a Christian. He sells Bibles. He held the book up. He says, I love the Christians. I love the uneducated. My Trump impression. I'm working on it. That's the issue. Why do Christians believe someone so clearly lying like Trump? Because they were trained for 1,500 years by the church to believe someone so clearly lying. Paul. Modern Christians are Pauline, but they have not learnt how to read, reflect, or understand. All they have learnt to do is imitate, parrot, catchphrases from whoever happened to be their preacher. That's why they don't even feel the same as each other, because every different preacher has a different interpretation of Paul. Some are for gay rights, some are against gay rights. Some hate women, some love women. It's all a mess. That's the nature of the conflict within the believer. They are supposedly getting a feeling of sameness, but within, they know they're different. They know no one has the same beliefs as me. The next church up the street's going to be different. The person sitting next to me thinks differently than me. That's the conflict. We're supposed to be like, but I feel unlike. We're supposed to be the same, but we're all different. Therefore, I still feel lonely. I still feel disconnected. The promise was you can get over your loneliness and your feeling of disconnection by joining the group. It was a grift. And I still feel guilty. And I still have my problems. That's right. Forgiveness doesn't solve problems. It doesn't remove guilt. So you still feel sad. The promises were lies. As someone who grew up undereducated, lack of mental health awareness, typical religion downplays mental health. This is mental health, literally. We are understanding the cause of mental suffering, the disconnection between like and unlike or same and different, suffered by believers in groups that reject logos and ousia. What is mental health? Logos and ousia. That's simple. What's the cause of problems? Beliefs. What solves them? Understanding. That's education. That's mental health. As someone who grew up around the Bible Belt, unironically, religious people were the most superstitious, easily scared of things they don't understand, and make beliefs about things like black cats, etc., and gave fear power in their lives. Yeah. Supernatural beliefs is the class of belief. There isn't any evidence, but you've got to believe it. But in principle, there can't be any evidence. It's a weird cycle of, I'm scared, but I believe in God. If I believe in God, I won't have to be scared. Spoon-fed that. Problem, reaction, solution. Manufacturing consent. Create a problem, you're going to go to hell. Manufacture a reaction, oh, I'm so scared. Here's a solution. Pay $9.99 a month and you can join the group of Christians. As long as you believe in religion, you are saved from suffering. Adults use Satan and the boogeyman to make them believe. Yeah. We could take off my jumper. Background of what I went through personally. Yep, no, that's great. So what we're doing now is we're taking those personal experiences that have, triggered our curiosity, and we're adding logos to it. Can we nail down our observations with the logos? That's a movement from opinions into understanding. Nailing them down. Now, understanding uses certain words. Understanding uses words, and that's what we're looking for. This is how you read, by the way. You're not just reading with a story, you're looking for an underlying structure behind the thinking of the main characters. Whole and part. Same, different. Like and unlike. Now, we're using them to understand believers. Believers, you can be a part of a whole is the promise. You'll be the same as other people. You'll have a state of mind that is like everyone else. But the thing is, we're nailing down it in understanding. Raised to project it to be a good child of God, and if you don't express your love of God and shove Jesus down people's throats, you're not being a child of God. Yeah, multi-level marketing. That's what it is. Evangelism is multi-level marketing. Go out and get more subscribers. So, what makes you the same as others? That makes you a part of the whole? Limit. You have to accept sacrifices. You have to limit what you can say, what you can think, what you can do, how you relate. It's that feeling of being limited that makes you feel like other members of the group. That's the sameness that's offered that makes you a whole or a part of a whole. See how we're using these basic units of thinking? By the way, everything you've ever seen is either a part or a whole, right? Everything you've ever seen is the same as something in that it's something, but different from other things. Everything you see is like something. This pen is like this pen, but it's also unlike it because it's an E-pen and this is an ink pen. Do you see how what we're gaining here are basic building blocks, Lego blocks of thinking and perception? These are the basic units. We might even add one more above here, even more basic. One and many. Everything you've seen, you only see it if you can see it as a one. If something's camouflaged and you can't find the outline, you can't see it as a one, you can't see it. Every thought is one thought, right? And you have to distinguish that one object or that one thought from the others, the background and the foreground. Isn't this the basic unit of perception? This is the logos. This is the self logos. Self is like an honorific. Like this, like Sir Ian McCullen. Because it exists. It's not an idea, it's not a concept or an abstract. Each of these aspects have their own existence in the realm of being. And maybe even in the self, beyond being. The being is the metaphysical world, what Jesus and Socrates have been talking about as the brilliant light of pure being. Couldn't convert people, so you quit. Yeah, good. Lucky you. So what we are doing is we're taking all of these personal experiences, finding a paradigm or a system of thinking called the self-logos, that is the units of understanding, the Lego pieces, the building blocks, so we can understand what it means to be a believer. Which is, how do these terms work together? The promise is you can be a part of a whole greater than yourself. You can be the same as others. You can feel like them. So long as you accept limit. Now, if we recognize a pattern developing in Socrates' thinking, notice that they're pairs. Join our religion, become a part of a whole. Hang on a second. The state of mind of a believer is they're supposed to be the same, but internally they recognize they're different. There's a conflict. They're supposed to be like their fellow Christians, but they look around and they still feel unlike them. So, can we see this as a principle and fill it out? What would follow? What's the partner to limit? Everything that we've ever seen in reality is either limited, has a boundary around it, or unlimited. What's an example of something unlimited? How about numbers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, maybe love. That's numbers. Yeah, love might be. We're going to get into the symposium. We started it, but this book is just too good. So if we are seeing a pattern, the nature of believers is a conflict between these self-logos terms within the soul of a believer. Can we guess that we are going to keep reading and find unlimited? And maybe Socrates will tell us that this is going to be a conflict. Let's go back and keep reading. Here we go. Nope. We've read so much. We're doing so well. Okay. Here we go. We're looking for these key self-logos terms so we can nail down an understanding, not just of these Abrahamic religions, but any religion or any group like that, and maybe even the pathologos. Because isn't that a group, a family group, bound by a limitation? No understanding beyond this point. Be a member of the group. Anyway, we are the chosen people. Our family way of being is... Anyway, let's keep going. Belief moves the soul in a certain way. It changes one's vision to its opposite. A limited vision limits your vision. So for all belief, when it's urged upon us, comes with it another belief. You're actually getting two beliefs. Here's the belief, stomach this, but also stomach this belief. That is, that belief is true. You're also being fed a belief about truth, that the belief you're given is true. There are different kinds of beliefs, but the ones we're talking about is believing something is true when there is not only nothing to support it, like the Abrahamic religions, but in principle, it's impossible to prove it. Can't prove this Jesus being the Son of God and Mary being a virgin and the devil, and can't prove any of that. So this effect on the soul, being told here is an absurd belief, can't be proven, and here is a belief that this is true. In other words, absurd, irrational beliefs are true, fucks with your soul. Accepting the irrational, the effect on the soul is that it experiences a limitation. So back to our limit again. A limitation. A limitation limit in its very being. Accepting the irrational as primary makes the use of the mind frivolous. Simply, the presence of being a self is no longer important since the irrational looms over all. Limitation on our being, limitation on the use of our mind, limitation on self. The belief separates oneself from all else, and it has a mode of existing that itself suspends the rational desire to understand. So, being told to stomach that irrational, unprovable beliefs is the standard of truth limits your being, limits your mind, limits the self. Your self is not important, and it limits understanding. What critical thinking and nature of self? We need that? Yeah, exactly. Right, doesn't it sound absurd when you say it out loud? This is the power of understanding. Understanding can make, using simple ideas, makes the obvious clear to all those who want to look. Now, our friend, who was it? Taylor, the Christian that vomited her stuff a while ago. She was not convincing because she wasn't using understanding. She's just repeating the same beliefs that she got from childhood. Yeah, no joke. Everyone does that. That's boring. We say to that,
Whore.
Well, maybe
Talking about a bunch of slop.
Whereas, if you use these simple words that are general, they will always apply, not just to her beliefs, but anyone who comes in with a bunch of beliefs. If you're not using understanding, it's not going to make it clear. So, what we're seeing is this limit. We're saying limit is what you have to accept to become the same, and like. These are two building blocks, see? Same and different, same, like. To be same and like people, you have to accept a limit on how you think. To be a member, only read the Bible, only associate with Christians, or only marry a Mormon, only think Mormon stuff, right? To be same and like, and that makes you a part of a whole. See? Whole and part. Up here, whole and part. But what we're seeing is that the effect of that limit is because you are told to accept the irrational as irrational, and what is impossible to prove as the thing that our soul is really seeking, what we're all here for, the thing that motivates us to do midwifery and separate from our false beliefs, the things that motivate our soul to reach reality, to reach the truth of beauty, to reach the truth of love, to reach the truth of self and reality. Truth. That's what you have to accept. Causes a limitation on your being. Causes a limitation on your... The effect on the soul is it's a limitation in its very being. Accepting the irrational as primary, true, makes the use of the mind frivolous. So we have limit belief, limit mind. The presence of being of a self is no longer important since the irrational... Hey, who gives a shit about being a self? If everything is irrational, why would we even be here? Why would we value selves? Can you make an argument as to why the Palestinian selves are important? No, if everything's irrational, then who gives a shit? If you got the power to genocide children, then fucking do it, Netanyahu and Trump. Selves are limited, or being a self is no longer important. All of these things are, and also it separates the rational desire, suspends the rational desire to understand. Understanding. This kind of limit makes all of these things meaningless. Because beliefs in the irrational or the supernatural are also come along with the belief that irrationality is truth. Therefore, beings are not important. Who cares about you? Not the billionaires, not the priests, not the clergy, not the politicians. Mind is important. Shouldn't we actually solve the problems using our mind? Nope. The self. Isn't every self important? Why do we have prisons? And why do poor people exist? And why does genocide exist? Nope. Understanding. Isn't understanding what solves all human problems and is what we use to reach our excellence? Nope. If you are told to accept the impossible or irrational as true, the most important, significant things in life and solving problems, being, mind, self, understanding, all rendered meaningless. Why? Because we are told to accept a limit, to be the same as people, a feeling of likeness, which is supposed to overcome your feeling of emptiness and loneliness and guilt, that will make you a part of a whole. That's the pitch. That's Abrahamic religions. That's the cause of the suffering we have on our planet and the injustice. This whole pitch creates a limit as a saving grace, but limits being, mind, self, and understanding. If you ever decide to teach in California, I hope so one day. I think so. I think maybe I'm destined to live there, maybe. When it's not a dystopian America. Yeah, that's what I'm praying for. I'm praying for it soon. There are some good people in California. I think people who are going to be interested in this. I don't know how far Australia has to go before anyone around here is going to value anything I do. But maybe in California. There were people in California that were not good people. Maybe because Pierre lived there, I don't know. I hope you can, because I think most people are avoiding religion and association, especially... Yes. Sorry, I'm doing the Hassan thing. I'm reading the chat too fast for people watching. People around there are avoiding religion and its associations, especially the younger generations. Cheers. I'll drink to that. At least nowadays it seems bad, but younger generations, thanks to the internet, that explore mental health are educated in themselves. Yeah. Like my soundboard is full of people who I consider to be up there, like really, like young budding philosophers. Like,
this guy had to admit that
No one seems to be learning or growing or addressing actual... No one seems to be learning.
You've been a bad little girl, and the more holes, the better.
Okay, go ahead.
like all of these sorts of
It's
people.
sad. And I'm sad for you.
I'm sad for you. And they all seem to be like Californian. And when I was with Pierre Grimes, I was studying in California, and he did say to me, maybe you should live here. So I hope one day, hopefully soon. I'm sure you'll do phenomenal and your students will love you, probably in California. Yeah, I hope so. There's a lot about California I liked. I liked all of the like dive, like diners, like Denny's and stuff in California, because you could go there at any time of the night and there's a lot of space and you could just talk about philosophy and free coffee. I love that. That was so cool. And you could have like pancakes or a mixed grill and just talk about it, and you could just have your notebooks open, and if you're reading, I remember talking to someone who was going through Proclus's study on the Parmenides and doing midwifery, and really cool. I also loved what's that Chinese place? Panda Express. I like Panda Express. Denny's and IHOP, yeah, I love those places. I used to go there a lot and do philosophy, study, read. People were nicer. Yeah, I love Panda Express. It was the greatest. People seem nicer. I mean, there's a lot of variation, but in a good way, kind of. And I'm sure there were crazy people and stuff as well, but like when people outside my country know these things, oh yeah, Panda Express was the best. But over here, the tall poppy syndrome, the idea of if you're different, or if you're a thinker, or if you like understanding, then you stand out from everybody else. To be an Australian, like, this is Australian. All right there, mate. Oh yeah, fucking, what's all this philosophy stuff, eh? You're into this guy named Socrates? Who the fuck is that? Sounds like a bit of a wuss if you ask me. Chuck us a beer, will you, mate? That's kind of the standard. And so if you're anything different than that, then, then you're like a field of poppies, and the poppy that sticks out above all the other poppies gets cut down. That's a very Australian thing, and it's not great for a philosopher. Not great for a poppy that wants to help other poppies grow. Yeah. Most people want to get a deeper understanding about themselves. That's it too. That's the difficulty. To be able to see through the accent. What accent? I don't have a fucking accent. It's them Yankees that have the fucking accent. You buffhead. That accent. Can I see through that accent? Which is difficult at times. To the self that's seeking to free themselves from this limitation and gain understanding. We all just have different accents. Yeah, but also California knows how to party. California, yeah, knows how to party in the city. Anyway. So, limit to be same, to be like, to be a part of a whole, when really feeling different and unlike, causing an internal conflict, but also an internal conflict that will never be solved because that limit also applies to our being, our mind, our self, and our understanding, making all of these things meaningless because we're also being able to to accept as a fundamental principle the irrational and impossible to prove as a standard of truth. Just tell people you're Australian philosopher and they'll be like, do tell immediately. Oh, it's tricky in Australia. Oh, in America, sure, absolutely. In Australia, they're like, what? Philosopher? You don't like them thinking words, do you? You don't like to read them books? Those books are a bunch of Yankee poofter nonsense. That's the kind of thing you get around here. Fortunately, people are more likely to be open-minded and curious and allow their true self to come through from their mask if I'm playing my guitar. So that's been something that's been very important for me. The belief, yes, so it suspends the irrational desire to understand. Each believer this is Socrates talking, so I should be doing the voice. Each believer intuitively knows all other believers in the same system experience this difference in their state of mind, both within themselves and with others, and that gives them a limitation. If they ever free themselves from the belief, they re-experience the freedom from this limitation. Of belief. Within themselves, they experience at the same time, limited by the belief, and they also know that without the belief, they would experience a freedom or a sense of limitless. Hooray! We've found our next self-logos pair in the next stage of understanding. Remember, reading is not just reading the words, it's seeing if we can find a structure to the thinking of the characters. And Socrates, exemplifying someone who has mastered the logos, that's why we read Socrates. We can see that there's a structure in his thinking that we can be like and be the same as ourselves. The only difference is we can be like him, not in conflict with being unlike, like a believer. I'm like the other believers, but I'm really not happy and I'm really conflicted within my soul because I know I'm not really like these other weirdos in my church. No. Can we be like Socrates, but also relate favorably, rationally, and beneficially to those who are unlike ourselves? Can we see through the Aussie accent, you mug? And benefit even people unlike Socrates? Can we be the same as Socrates as being a philosopher, but developing this understanding of other people who are different? Can we use our sameness, love of understanding, philodainoia, to be beneficial to people who are different? Believers are in conflict. These two ideas in conflict. I'm the same as all of these other people because we're all limited, but I also am different because they don't actually think the same things I think, and they seem to be more happy than me, and some of them are just complete nut jobs, and I don't agree with any of that stuff about women being less than men, but so same fundamental building blocks of understanding or reality or the self-logos. So all those things that are blocked, we are using understanding. This is a different color. We are using understanding. These are the building blocks of understanding. We are awakening our highest self and being able to relate beneficially to other selves. We are using our mind in the highest way. It's a way of being that we relate to people that can be the new way of being of the new age, which is how can we be the same as Socrates but relate providentially, rationally and beneficially, artfully to people who are different? How can we have the same the state of mind like Socrates, but also function through care and understanding to people unlike us? How can we be a whole but harmonize all of the parts? And also, how can we find the one self or rediscover the one self, be ourselves one, but also in a providential relationship with the many? So that's a fantastic description of what it means to be Socrates, or the highest excellence of ourselves. But notice, we could say that using the exact same pieces we've been using to describe the worst kinds of people. The people who discount being, mind, self, and understanding. Using the same building blocks, we're just putting them in a different relationship. That's the self-logos. Isn't that neat? Same building blocks, just different relationships. So, and what we've seen is we've just found the unlimited. You have to accept those limitations to be like the other members, to be the same as to be a part of a whole. But actually, they realize that if they can let go of those beliefs that limit them, they will have a sense of freedom or limitlessness. So the word here that we discovered was, that's right, was limitless. So here, another conflict, another understanding of the conflict within the soul of people who are believers is they recognize their limit, but they know that if they can somehow get out of it, they will have a sense of limitlessness. That's a conflict that they have. Again, they're in conflict between each of these ideas. Isn't that neat? Isn't understanding neat? Isn't this book a banger?
The more holes, the better.
Socrates. Within themselves, they experience at the same time being limited by the belief. But they also know that without the belief, they would experience, and they know that without the belief, they would experience a freedom or a sense of limitless. The limitless. These two states have an effect on believers, for they are opposites of one another. And so within themselves and with others, too, within yourself and with others, remember, the meaning of life and the moral obligation of everyone to go through midwifery is to be kind to ourselves, to remove our own problems, but also to address our effect on others. the cause of injustice, the cause of genocide, the cause of conflict, the cause of war, the cause of capitalism and fascism. The fundamental false beliefs we carry affect others as well. They are opposites, so within themselves and with others, they experience a sense of togetherness, and at the same time, within themselves, they experience an opposition. Then, as we both know, such believing exists within oneself, but it does not give any mark of its presence. The togetherness and opposition. Is that another self-repair? So believing does not give any mark of its presence. So believers borrow from their experience of sacrifice. The proof that they believe. Thus they keep alive a belief by drawing upon something that is alien, something that provides them with an assurance that they do believe. Therefore, their mode of existence is that within themselves they are in conflict. And this persists as long as they are captured by the belief. You don't have the belief has you. So I think this is what I was talking about when that person came into chat and started vomiting their crazy religious beliefs. I was saying, look, I get it. Nobody asked for your dumb opinions. This channel is specifically about understanding. So we're not even interested in opinions themselves. But you know that. You know that. You know exactly what will happen when you start spewing your religious bullshit. The same thing that you've always experienced happening. Even within your church. People will get pissed off. Even people within your religion don't have your beliefs. Because no one learns to read the text. There's no usia and logos, so there's definitely no reading. So everyone's personal opinions are different. They're a mess. That's the point. The point being, when you start to say, this is what I believe with all my heart, people will always be in opposition. Because it's bat crap crazy. Always. You will never find anyone with the same beliefs as you. Every pathologos is unique. It's like a snowflake. So, it's that feeling of sacrifice that feeling of conflict within oneself and with others that they borrow from to give themselves a feeling that tells them that they do believe. Assurance that they do believe. That's why Sus was saying they sent me out to proselytize. No one will ever be converted. If they're interested, they're already a believer. You can't convince someone through reason to accept that which is irrational. It's impossible. No one will ever be convinced. They are always going to be in opposition. That feeling of opposition it's coercion, yeah. It's irrationality. Oh, believe in Jesus. What's the evidence? There is no evidence. Well, why should I believe? Because I'm going to threaten you? But I don't believe in hell. Well, I do. Well, why did you? Because I was 4 years old when I was told by my parents, and I've always trusted my parents, and I've never gone through philosophical midwifery to question my earliest teachers. So I'm just carrying the same bullshit beliefs from my parents. And then religious figures and political figures like clergy and Trump manipulate me my whole life using those unsuspected false beliefs. They'll say, well, I didn't have your parents. If I did, I would already believe, and you wouldn't need to convince me. I'd say, oh yeah, I'm already you. Yeah, tell me Santa isn't real. But that's the issue. That's why they send 17-year-old kids in the Mormon tradition, Jehovah's Witnesses, to knock on the door. I know more about God and reality than you. You're a fucking kid. You know nothing. You're still in your house. I can tell you what you believe. Everything your mum and dad believes. I can tell you what they believe. Everything their mum and dad believes. Get the fuck out of here. That is guaranteed. Even the people who are nice, oh yeah, let me hear your pitch. They're gonna respond with reason, and they can't reason.
The problem is that you can't reason someone out of a position that they didn't reason themselves into.
So you can't change their mind, and they're not gonna change their mind because they're identified with their bullshit. They're never gonna change their mind. They're closed-minded idiot kids. That feeling of opposition from others and within themselves, because they know it's bullshit at some level. They know that they're limited. They know they can only have Mormon girlfriends, and they have to get married when the Mormons say, and they have to eat what the Mormons say, and they can't read Harry Potter because the Mormons say so, and they have to believe in hell because the Mormons say so. They have to accept irrational, impossible beliefs as a standard of truth because the Mormons say so. They feel that conflict between the limit and unlimited. Between being the same as everyone else, but really feeling different than all the other Mormons. Being like them, and that we all have to accept these limitations, but really feeling unlike them because, I don't really feel like these other people here. That conflict between limit and unlimit, same and different, like and unlike, within themselves, within their conflicted soul, and within others, is what they borrow from to give them a feeling of being a believer. That's why these bastards love to debate. You ever seen these YouTube videos? It's always some fundamentalist or fascist or other right-winger who are in a group of believers of the impossible or believers of the irrational, spewing their irrational opinions and never ever changing their mind with a smug-ass grin on their face because that feeling of opposition they take as a pat on the head from mummy and daddy and rabbi and imam and preacher and priest as a believer. Knowledge, wisdom, they come with an experience, literally the highest experience, beauty itself, the perfection of love, the meaning of loving relationships. Well, you go beyond ultimate being when you add logos to it to true excellence. Experienced as bliss. That's why in the Republic, Socrates says, hey, when you reach through understanding and through the removal of beliefs through midwifery and dream analysis, when you reach the actual truth about all of these things, when you reach the one from the many, when you are a complete whole of all of the parts, when you are everything the same, everything that has different unified together, when you have the highest experience of all of these terms together, brilliant light of being, what Socrates and Jesus have both been talking about, they both experienced, Socrates says, please don't stay there. As it is, the most brilliant experience, the most blissful experience, the perfection of love, beauty itself, Socrates says, people will want to dwell in the isles of the blessed. It's literally way better than anything in this physical world. Why don't you want to stay in the realm of being, which is more real, more true, and more blissful? Why wouldn't you? Socrates says, because if someone helped you get there, please, you don't have to, but I am asking, turn around and help others. Be a mean analogy. As the teacher is to the student, so too can you as the student teach others. That's the model of the Dharma. That's the spiritual teaching. The pathologos is the false model. Mummy is to me as I will be to my kids. Or daddy is to me as when I become president or king or priest or a owner of a business, I can be to my employees or my subjects. The same injustice I suffered, I will inflict on others. That's the nature of human conflicts. That's the pathologos. That's the distortion of the true teaching model. The true teaching model is, as Socrates is to us, when we reach the isles of the blessed, please, says Socrates, turn around and pass it on to others. You don't have to, but I'm hoping you will. That's the Dharma. That's the mean analogy. That's this. A is to B as B is to C. That's the true model of teaching. And why are we talking about it now? Because the Isles of the Blessed has a feeling. Beliefs don't have a feeling. Then how do you know you're a good Christian? How do you know you're a good Jew? I can tell you how. As you're genociding the Palestinian children to death, a lot of people will be in opposition to you. Why aren't those Zionists changing their mind when everyone is saying, we are in opposition to genocide? Because that opposition from others and within their own soul, as they're shooting Palestinian children in the head, their soul doesn't like that, not completely. They've associated that opposition and conflict as what it means to be a Jew, what it means to be a Mormon, what it means to be a Christian. That's fundamental to understand. And now, we can have a similar, our hypothesis that we're playing with is, does the pathologos beliefs fall into the same category as these Abrahamic beliefs? These American Christians that are not changing their mind, even though they are seeing the facts that Trump isn't helping them. These Jewish Zionists who are not changing their minds, even though the world is saying, we don't like you murdering children. Does that also, because that opposition is what they think it means to be a believer. That's why MAGA has never ever had any policies. It's only, I want to hurt the liberals. I want to drink the liberal tears. I want to make the immigrants suffer. I want to make the women suffer by taking away their healthcare, forcing them to give birth. It's only defined by opposition because beliefs don't have feeling. How do you know you're a MAGA? How do you know you're a Jew? How do you know you're a Mormon? If the same is true for the pathologos, what does that mean? If everyone as a human being gets a pathologos, a fundamental false belief accepting a limitation to be a member of the tribe, a member of the family tribe, based on limitation. None of us are musicians in our house. None of us are artists in our house. None of us love women in our house, whatever it is. Can we conclude that people, exactly tribalism, that opposing another person's pathologos will never change their mind, and in fact, that opposition might even be the point? Have you ever noticed when people know that they are going to play out their pathologos injustice, there is that, what I call the Joker smile? Oh, I know I'm about to do something. It's sick to see. It turns my stomach. They know they're about to do something they know is wrong, but they can't wait to fucking do it. Human beings are the fucking worst. Unless we learn to understand and free ourselves from our beliefs, in which case the pleasure, the sadistic pleasure in opposition, in cruelty, that gives you a feeling of being a member of the tribe, is replaced by an ability to actually help people unlike you, benefit those different than you, help the heart parts become whole themselves, and create a unified cosmos oneness out of the many. In other words, we have the potential to be the best, but currently, because we don't have philosophical midwifery as a fundamental institution in our society for every person, we're the fucking worst. And when people oppose the pathologos, if our hypothesis stands that the pathologos is like these Abrahamic traditions, then that very act of opposition might give a kick. Sadism. Because it tells them they're a believer. Whether it's some moron at the gym, some meathead retard, no, I shouldn't call him a retard, some moron meathead at the gym trying to create problems so he'll have opposition because now he's on the juice and he feels like a big tough guy. Whether it be some priest saying, oh, actually, women shouldn't be in the church. Oh, I know I'm going to get pushback about that. Whether it be some right-wing fucking pundit on some Russian-paid Daily Wire podcast or some Joe Rogan podcast saying, oh, I know we shouldn't make fun of the underprivileged, but I'm going to. And I know the comment sections are going to say, hey, Joe Rogan, or hey, Ben Shapiro, or hey, Jordan Peterson, why are you kicking the people who are most poor and underrepresented? Why are you beating down? Why have you never ever punched up at Trump? Why are you celebrating sadism and genocide and concentration camps? Because it's your team? They know they will have that opposition, but they want it. How else do you feel like a believer? Which is dangerous, which is important to be aware of, because when someone sidles up to you and tries to play out their family conflict, I want to be daddy and I want you to be me when I was a kid. Hey, I don't like your opinions. Your reaction will be in opposition. Well, that's not a polite way of treating me. That's not an equal way of treating me. Oh yeah? Well then you're an idiot. More opposition. Give me more opposition. Feed my pathologos. That's the danger. Which is why it's so important to find people in an open, generous, loving of understanding state of mind for philosophy. Otherwise, the opposition to their pathologos beliefs or Abrahamic religious beliefs is just going to feed their injustice, because they substitute that for knowing. Knowing has bliss. The false image of knowing has that feeling of being opposed by good people. In other words, the cruelty is the point for the right wing. Which is why you can't do midwifery unless you're a good person. Well, unless you're open and curious and genuinely seeking truth. Otherwise, you'll just find pushback on your religious and family beliefs, and you'll take it with a grin, and you'll keep doing it. Get the fuck out of here. Go seek excellence. Go reach a more meaningful goal than the horse shit you were fed from childhood. Try and be better. As you try and be better, you'll find an opposition from your beliefs, and if you genuinely would rather be a better person than be loyal to your beliefs, now you're in the game. That's why crazy religious person is out the door and sus is still here. Too much fun with Santa thing. I need to animate it. Oh, interesting. So what's the idea with Santa? To help people realize their false beliefs are false is becoming mature and rational, but don't take it personally because it's just like learning that Santa is false. Something like that. What made you get into midwifery? Just asking. I don't know exactly. When I heard about it, it just made sense to me. It seemed rational. Like, I had never seen anybody actually embrace understanding like Pierre Grimes. When I heard him talk, it was like a symphony. Like, it spoke to my soul. Like, this is a musical symphony, but with reason. I've never seen anyone do this. Why isn't everyone doing this? This guy I need to talk to. And if you want to find these musical symphonies, type in PRS, Pierre Grimes, and you'll find like 110 or 120 lectures from about 94, 95, 96, I think. The best things I've ever seen on YouTube. The PRS lectures, and they're on YouTube, you can find them. Amazing. Need someone to stand on to have fake confidence. As long as they have a position over someone else, it provides them with self-worth. Yes, that's the thing. It's power over people, tyranny, and they will oppose you, but that's good for you because that gives you a feeling of being a believer, rather than philodainoia, which is power with people. Equality scares them, yeah. Because they only know one game. The parent game and the child game, being the bully or the bullyee. So when some moron who's never thought about anything other than lifting weights in his life says, oh, I don't like music, and I try and relate to him as an equal, hey, let's talk about it. What is it you don't like? I can't believe you're talking to me. He literally said that. What? I've already told you my thing. What are you doing? He hasn't learned how to be a human being, how to relate through reason and understanding as equals. It's either bully or bullyee. Can't control people who are equal to you. Yeah. Power imbalance, exactly. They need that for a sense of self. So long as they've identified with their belief, if belief has no feeling and they have to borrow from that sense of opposition, conflict or opposition within themselves, conflict and opposition with others, then, yeah, their sense of self is identified with that feeling they're borrowing from opposition. They've identified with a conflicted soul. And our goal is to have a unified, harmonious, excellent soul. What a tragedy. I hope someone comes along to give them something curious enough that might make them open enough to reflect for a second. I'm not a good person, but I would like to be. I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with the first part. I mean, we'd have to do a lot of work to find out what is the nature of the good, which would require us understanding the nature of the good. Otherwise, it's just a belief. And you'd have to practice midwifery for a while to remove your false belief about what it means to be a good person so you can make that judgment accurately. And then having practiced midwifery as a subject, you probably want to practice it to help others through midwifery to see how well you are at it. So until you do all those things, I don't think you can really say for certain whether or not you're a good person. But we can keep that as an open question. Have to experience the good through understanding and experience, nous. Go through midwifery for a while. Practice midwifery for a while. Then after that, you can go back to this question and see whether or not you're a good person. I know how badly it feels to be subjected and to harm and to hurt. And I wish not to do the same to myself, to others or myself anymore. Fantastic. Yeah, that's what draws us into philosophy and midwifery. Unfortunately, cruelty either makes you feel you can be cruel to others or cruel to yourself. Flip side of the same coin. Absolutely. And we're seeing that here. We're understanding the inner conflict between one and many, whole and parts, same, different, like, unlike, and limit and unlimitedness within oneself and also in our relationship with others. That's why we say there's a moral obligation for philosophical midwifery for everyone, not only to remove our internal conflict so we can reach our highest goals, but also we unknowingly play out that same drama to others. Therefore, we say it's a psychic parasite. It's like a zombie virus. There's a little bit of ousia that keeps it going and a little bit of logos that keeps us talking in a certain kind of a way, but it's just zombie. Brains, brains, brains. That's all we say. We're trapped. Can't go anywhere. Because our false beliefs establish a limit to being, mind, self, and understanding that cause us to say only limited logos, brains, only limited ousia. We live a life where we play out that image. Therefore, if we don't want to eat other people's brains and we don't want to decay as a zombie ourselves, that's two good reasons to do midwifery. To be kind to yourself and others. So well said. Two sides of the same coin. Absolutely. Until there's a balance, you learn to give your power to others or have power over others. Yes, exactly. Exactly. Be a Cinderella or be an evil stepmother. Same thing, flip side of a coin. People are either relatable or reactive. I still need to practice. Very hard on myself. Yeah, but also this game is the funnest game in town. Because it has meaning. In other games, understanding is meaningless. For us, understanding frees us from our blocks and helps us reach bliss and excellence and fulfill our meaning of life and figure out where we're going after this lifetime and maybe even have a look around there so we can spend our life preparing for that journey after we die. Understanding super meaningful. Yourself is meaningless watching a basketball game. What role is it in for yourself? Nothing. This is all about yourself. To discover yourself. Mind. How mindless is most media? State of being. Aren't we told not to judge people's states of being? Don't judge other religious people or political people. Everyone's equal. No. Our state of being is very important. Developing an ideal way of being is what we're here for. Hard on myself. Could be religious trauma. Pathologos belief. Perfectionism and never feeling good enough. Take notes. Take notes. Because when you get into philosophical midwifery, all of these notes about the limitations that come up in your thinking, in your states of mind, or in your actions, are clues to unlock the unsuspected false belief that is false, An unsuspected false belief about yourself that limits your being, mind, self, and understanding. That's our goal, to surface our specific pathologos through philosophical midwifery, and then all of our blocks, our feelings that block us, our internal dialogue that is mean to us, cuts ourselves down, the jokes we make at our own expense. Why not make jokes that build you up? Why not make jokes that build other people up? That's the best kind. I love people like that. So when you catch yourself knocking yourself down, or others down, write it down. Because it's not true. Because yourself is the best. And true perfection isn't a flawless ideal. It's recognizing that every force that you are currently, right now. Get rid of this. True perfection isn't a flawless ideal that you must have. That's what sadists and pathologos people insist upon, so they have an excuse to inflict punishment on you as justice. So they can feel justified in their sadism and their cruelty because you've made a mistake, and now I can punish you. Now I can be daddy and spank you like I was spanked. That's the underlying false belief behind this feeling of perfectionism. Because the stupidest people will just be out there like hawks, looking for someone to make a mistake. That was too loud. You dropped your sandwich. Oh, you suck. And then they join message boards and say, Hassan Piker dropped his sandwich. Therefore, we should cancel him. And he's a jerk, and we all hate him, right? Right, guys? Looking for an excuse to play out your pathologos injustice on other people. Under the guise of punishment, which is itself irrational. No one is benefited by inflicting punishment, ever. Not a thing. It's the opposite. Inflicting suffering prevents ousia and self-reflection. We want to create an easy life for people so we can reflect. By easy, I don't mean polite, like let's all be polite to Donald Trump and not tell the truth about his pathologos. Fuck no. Create the ideal conditions for self-reflection. So perfectionism isn't having a flawless ideal that you always are, otherwise some idiot with a stick can beat you with it. No. Perfection is realizing that you are right now, right this very moment, right here, a perfect representation of all of the forces upon your soul in this life and through your many reincarnations, giving you exactly what you need to ousia, reflect upon yourself with understanding, to uncover your highest excellence. True excellence of your one self. That's what perfect means. Right now, you're a perfect representation of all of the forces that have been on your soul, giving you exactly what you need as the puzzle pieces to apply ousia and logos in philosophical midwifery to solve all your problems and reach true excellence. Therefore, every problem is a puzzle, and every problem you must have, given all of the forces on your soul. if you had this series of reincarnation into and including this life, you will always have these kinds of problems. Necessarily. That's perfect. That's perfect. You're a perfect representation, exactly how you should be, exactly how you need to be, giving you exactly what you need to solve your problems and reach your true excellence, to know the self. That's what perfect means. Not some baby-brained, mush-brained idea of some flawless ideal that some monkey-brained idiot can never find you making a mistake and therefore, I can fucking hit you with a stick. No, that's mush-brain nonsense. Doesn't make sense. That would have to that idea of perfectionism, you'd have to reject everything that is rational. You make a mistake, so I get to punish you? You've never made a mistake? How have you learned anything then? The sorts of thugs that are like, you made a mistake, now I get to fight you. They are the stupidest people because they're still pretending the bullshit they got from their childhood is real, so they're just imitating their moron dads their whole life, or moron mums their whole life. Because they could never make a mistake, because their mum or dad would beat them, so they can't ever make a mistake, they can't ever learn anything, which admits you've made a mistake. Of course you have. Your mum and dad weren't fucking Jesus and Socrates. Even they had problems. What we're reading in the book. So these sorts of people that insist on perfectionism, otherwise punishment or fear or guilt or shame, are the biggest idiots on the planet. They're mush-brained. They haven't made mistakes in their life, and they're still insisting the stuff that I got when I was 4 years old was never wrong. I've never made a mistake. I'm a perfect president. Everything was perfect. I've never made a mistake. Never lost a round of golf. Because daddy will beat me. If I ever make a mistake, my daddy will come in with a stick and he'd beat me senseless. Because he was in the KKK and he's a fucking psychopath. That's Trump. That idea of perfectionism as some flawless ideal gives you Donald Trump. And you have to completely reject reason and understanding and the idea of learning. Which is why the people who join ICE are the stupid, toe-headed moron, most toe-headed moron, mush-brained people out there. You made a mistake. You were born the wrong color. And then I get to hit you with a stick. That's that idea of perfectionism. So whenever you hear yourself talking like that, I need to beat myself up because I'm not perfect, think, no, I'm not going to live my life listening to a toe-headed moron, ICE, racist, Nazi, mush-brained, hasn't changed his mind since he was 4-year-old moron. I am perfect, always. I'm a perfect representation of all of the forces upon my soul up until this moment. Perfectly illustrating everything I need to see as puzzle pieces if I apply ousia and logos, self-reflection and dialectic, then I will be able to solve all of the problems that I've accumulated through my many incarnations and many journeys of the soul. I can solve all of these problems in one lifetime. That's the double-edged sword of being human. Yes, we face the absolute worst injustice, but we have what we need to reach our entire excellence in one lifetime. That's the double-edged sword. Yes, all of our rulers are the worst. Kings and clergy are the worst. Pathologos-driven, belief-driven, absolutely. But it gives us everything we need as a species, just as you as a perfect soul have everything you need within this lifetime to solve all of the problems you can, or you need to evolve to higher dimensions of reality. Escape the problems, the chains of your problems, and the prison of reincarnation. That's Socrates' expression. Now that's a good one for your Etsy store. Ousia and logos through philosophical midwifery. That's the front of the plushie, or the front of the pillow. The back says, to escape the chains of suffering and problems, escape the chains of problems and suffering, and escape the prison of reincarnation. That's something for the Etsy store. Let me catch up in chat. Brains. Did you say brains? I did say brains. Feeling a bit peckish. And there's a picture of a little critter. Oh, it's a zombie critter. Too scary. Yummy and gummy. Ooh.
Do a poggers.
Self-exploration. I was told not to judge a lot. Yes. Exactly. These people, when they say don't judge, they mean don't judge me because I'm wrong. Of course you judge. You're supposed to judge. That's what thinking is. Don't judge. Come on. Of course we judge. But the idea is to judge. What paradigm are you using to judge? When you cross the street, do you judge if the car is going to hit you? Of course you do. When you eat a sandwich, do you judge if it's been on the bench for too long and it's spoiled? Of course you do. Are we judging the difference between being a believer and Socrates? Yes. Are we judging the difference between the worst kind of human activity, believing, a pathologos, and the best, freedom from pathologos, because we recognize we're a perfect example of all of the forces and everything we need to see to overcome our false beliefs and reach our highest excellence? Yes. Just need to learn how to judge well. Disagreement with someone yesterday. I disagree. Believe what I believe, or surrender to my will. Yes. I have to have power over you in this situation. I'm a disengage and eat tacos. Peace. Yeah, that's the idea. And now we can have a greater understanding of why that is. If someone's open and generous and seeking understanding, right? Socrates said, look, this is the person to look for. This is what it means to be a good soul. Open. Yeah. If the teacher finds a soul that is open, generous, and dedicated to the pursuit of philosophy, Plato says that he welcomes the two together, body and soul, and cultivates the relationship through talks about excellence, and shares with his student what a good person ought to be and ought to do. As a result of what they share, the student gives birth to what can be said to rival even Homer and Hesiod. That's what we're after. We catch people who are open, generous, and dedicated to the pursuit of philosophy. Otherwise, our opposition to their injustice, they will just take that as a feeling that they are a good believer, a good tribe member, a good member of the family, a good member of the Zionist Jews, a good member of the evangelistic Christians, a good member of the door-knocking Mormons. This is who we cultivate loving relationships with. Little sentient sponge absorbing it all. When people get mad at me, I get very derp, potato, and hungry. Because I'm like, man, it's a lot of projection. Why do you feel justified in cruel and mental image of me in your head? I'm gonna step out and eat a burrito. I think that's the way to go. I am still wondering how to best relate to all people. I've struggled with this a long time. But yeah, I think popping a question like that might get them to reflect on what they're doing, ousia, in a funny way that if they get mad at it, they're just going to embarrass themselves, while saying, I'm out. I'll eat a burrito. Yeah, like smile, nod, and walk away. And if you can pop a question that might get them to reflect in a funny way, where if they get mad about it, they're going to embarrass themselves, I think that's a good way of going. I'm still wondering though. What? Perfectionism just robs people of their ideologies, just consume them with expectations, and that's not living. Exactly. We've talked about a whole different way of understanding perfectionism today. I like partying on Earth. Yeah, that's the game, right? Create the ideal conditions for the best party. Dianoia. I hope I come back again to have fun. Existence is a playground for experiences. Well, that's the idea. If this level is just a shadow of higher and higher, more real, more interesting, more understanding-filled dimensions of reality, Socrates says, I'm going to a place not to have no experiences. No. That's not the fear. Who told you that the higher levels of reincarnation are no experiences? No fucking way. Socrates says, I'm going to a better place. Peace out, y'all. I'm going to eat tacos with better men and gods and spirits that you will find in this stinkhole planet. And if you've got a head on your shoulders, you will rush to meet me as fast as you can fucking run. The games played up there are way better than the people that you find down here, says Socrates on the last day of his life. And he said, send a message to my mate who's also a philosopher. Come meet me. You know where to find me. Come meet me as quick as you can. Because I'm going to meet men who've completed their job down here, addressed their injustice. Because, hey, people are terrible if they have pathologos. And if our job here is to remove our pathologos, now only the best people get into the club. I don't want to be partying with people who are crap, who are Zionists, who are murderers, who are sick grifters. Fuck off. I don't want to party with them. Therefore, if we do our job, remove our pathologos, then we get to go to a better party, where Socrates says better people and gods and daemons, who are guides, but also fellow travelers, equals. So the game doesn't end. It gets better. And the other side of it, if you don't address your pathologos, is there a possibility that it gets worse? Because you are given what you have to, what you need to solve your problems. If you pick up the game of midwifery, and you get dreams every single night to help you, if you ignore all of that because I think I know better, mummy knows better, and my mummy's a saint, and my daddy was a preacher, and if Jesus is in the way, then that means that he's an idiot, and I don't like that. If you dig your heels in and don't do what you're supposed to do here, is there a possibility it gets worse? That's something we have to answer if we want to be rational beings. When it comes to being relatable, I just imagine how someone feels, hey, you know what? Can you give me a song that means something to you? People find it disarming. Yeah, that's what I asked. I said, oh, okay, what are you into? No songs. What do you mean, no songs? You mean like Beyonce? No, neutral. What the hell is neutral? Like don't pick anything. Just let the jukebox play. Yeah, so I saw then, oh, he wasn't interested in music. He didn't like that I was having fun. And I said, the stuff that plays automatically is just the same repeated corporate slop, capitalist bullshit, AI generated music that's fed to us all day. He goes, yeah, I know. I don't like that either. So what do you like? Neutral. Nothing. Just, why are you even talking? Just don't pick songs. I was like, oh, you're not interested in music. You just want to shit on what I love. Now, if I had more temperance about me, I could have done what you said. Oh, popped him a question. Isn't that interesting? Who are you copying that crushed what you love? Peace out. I'm going to go listen to some songs. Yeah, but that's the thing. But also, if we can recognize that opposition might be, oh, now I'm fighting with someone, just like my dad fought with me. I'm a big tough guy now. Because that idea of being a Noah by just crushing other people, whether you're a Jewish Zionist or a Christian evangelical or a Trump MAGA or a Nazi or any human being who is imitating their parents and haven't done midwifery and think that's a model of justice and knowingness, there's no feeling. It's not actually wisdom. You're not actually in that state of bliss or justice or excellence or in the flow. That's what we're reading. They borrow that opposition within their own soul. They know they're being bad. That's the point. So if you look at, I'm a tough, me muscles. Yeah. Grown big boy. Yeah. So if you watch some, there are some really, really good political streamers out there, and they use, I've become aware of them recently, and they have expression when they talk about the fascists, the right-wingers, the conservatives. Cruelty is the point. The left wing, or these people who they identify more with the left wing, I would say. I mean, in that they're not right wing, but I'd say they're better than the left wing. I think the left wing need to learn from these people. These people are way better than the current left wing. But anyway, they have an expression, these right wingers, they don't care about helping people. The cruelty is the point. Yeah, I tell myself I'm a big girl, but when the rent comes, I hide in the corner from adulthood screaming, why? Exactly. Yeah, it's no fun for him to poo-poo in your gym. Yeah, it's not fun. Not fun. But that's the point. He was having fun when his dad came in and shut him down or beat him up or crushed him in some way. And that's who he's repeating. The difficulty is, how do we communicate that truth in a way that might help him? And I think your idea of popping a question that might get him to reflect in a way he's never reflected before. Remember, believers don't have ousia. There's no self-reflection. Christians have never reflected on themselves. Trump says, I don't like reflecting on myself. Literally, he said that in an interview. MAGA never reflect on themselves. The ICE people never reflect on what they're doing. The Zionists, those Jews murdering Palestinians in Israel, they're not in Palestine. They don't reflect on what they're doing. So a question that might awaken or spark a self-reflection. I think that's the artfulness. And it seems to me, so I've seen a few people out there that are really inspiring and curious, fascinating. They seem to have a charm or a grace and a humor or wit about them that I've seen them pop a question or two or say a few things that have changed people's minds or got people to reflect on themselves in a way they never have before. And that's, Mar-a-Lago face. And I think that would be the ideal. It's the best I've seen anyway. but I'm still trying to figure it out. So all of the recordings, they stay up on my Twitch for a week, but I upload the recording to YouTube. And the YouTube videos are a little bit shorter because, like, when I take a break, I pause the recording. So you can check them out there on YouTube as well if they're not on the VODs. And yeah, I've got to go through the playlists as well, make sure they're up to date. So this is a big one. Super huge. So you might have a question, how come when I was in a relationship with X or Y, there would be conflict, but it would always keep happening? It's like they were immune from reason, or even when we came to conclusions, the same conflict would repeat. This might shed light on it. Believing that belief does not give a mark of its presence. So you borrow from your experience of sacrifice or conflict as the proof that they believe. Thus they keep alive a belief by drawing upon something that is alien, something that provides them with an assurance that they do believe. Therefore, their mode of existence. What we've been after. What is the mode of existence of a believer? Is that within themselves they are in conflict and this persists as long as they are captured by a belief. What is the state of mind or the mode of being of a believer? Conflict. It's that feeling of limit or sacrifice, and that feeling of being in opposition. I have to sacrifice listening to music, number one. And that feeling of opposition. I'm going to start a fight with that guy who does like music. That gives them an assurance they're a good boy, they're a believer. Because belief doesn't have a mark. And number two, their mode of existence is that within themselves they are in conflict. The conflict that they seek or that they manifest outwardly reflects the same conflict, opposition, limit, and sacrifice within themselves. That's what it means to be a believer.
The more holes, the better.
Hooray, we got there. Through our reflection through our reading of the book carefully and precisely, through pulling out terms like this, through looking for patterns within the terms. Remember how we predicted limitless? By applying it to our real life examples, not alone, but together with our friends in chat. Philosophy isn't a solo quest. It's the two or more person game. To push the implications of what follows, the idea of perfectionism, the idea that certain people are looking for conflict, they're looking for sacrifice, they're looking for opposition to give them a mark of what it means to be a believer. And that's what they've identified with. And that conflict and opposition reflects their state of soul. We have finally come together to conclude on what it means to be a believer, the mode of existence of believers. Jewish people, Christian people, Muslim people, and all others within that class, MAGA, Zionists, and maybe even all people if the pathologos fits this description. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We're going to keep that as a question. But at least we can understand what it means to be within these major categories of religion. Not just the ones that are currently around, but even the ones that will begin in the future. Elon Musk's new religion, Trump's new religion, whatever it happens to be. We have come to a general, remember, people who fall out of religion, they fall into a class of being a mass of differences, other from each other, unable to make generalized statements, falling into the apparent safety of making particular statements. Oh, I like ice cream, but who knows? Oh, I don't like genocide, but I don't know. Who cares? The modern Democrats. But by following this way of reading, this mode of being, we have come to a way of making a generalized statement, universal understanding, applying to all the Abrahamic religions and any religion like that that will come to be in the future in this planet or any other planet, in our species or any other species, in this dimension of reincarnation or any other ones beyond. So we've learnt how to grasp and understand what is very, very important in this time, but it's also a learning that we can take with us on our spiritual journey wherever we go. Good job, everyone. What's that understanding? The mode of being or the mode of existence of believers is that within themselves they are in conflict, and this persists as long as they are captured by a belief. What kind of conflict? A conflict between the elements of reality. They're a whole, but really they feel apart. They're supposedly the same, but they really feel different. They are like everyone else in that they are limited, but they really feel unlike. They are limited by this belief, but they know that they could be unlimited if they were able to free themselves from belief. That limit applies to their being. Their state of being is meaningless because that irrational belief, they also have to take along with it the belief that irrationality or impossible beliefs are a standard of truth. You don't just believe in Jesus, you have to believe that stupid beliefs are true. You can't prove that Jesus was God or whatever, but you have to take the irrational, impossible to believe as a standard of truth. Therefore, you're swallowing two piles of crap. Swallowing that means that your state of being is meaningless because irrationality is truth. So, seeking the true nature of being out the window. Your mind, meaningless because the irrational is true. Yourself is meaningless and understanding is meaningless. Yourself, human life, meaningless if you have been told to accept the irrational as true. No room for understanding and development, no room of reaching the highest aspects of your mind, no room for developing a state of being, a new way of being, true excellence and the new way of being for mankind, and ultimately no way of putting all of these three together to reach our ultimate goal, knowing the self. These four characterize excellence and human development. These four are rendered meaningless by belief. Therefore, people who say, maybe we should allow some religion for the dumb people. Nope, because religion isn't neutral, it's actively harmful to states of being, mind, understanding, and the self. It's the cause of suffering individually and within our world. Therefore, the conclusion that we've come to by systematic use of logos in understanding is that the state of being of believers is that they are in conflict. That's their state of being. That conflict, as we see, manifests within themselves. They are in eternal conflict and with others. The three major Abrahamic religions control our planet right now, and that's why we are in perpetual conflict with others. Be it genocide, billionaires, wealth inequality, fascism, Nazism, MAGA, you name it, it's a conflict within oneself and with others, because that's the mode of existence of believers. If you want to understand human problems, read this. If you want to remove human problems, we have to find what is not the lower, a mass of meaninglessness, but the higher mode of being from believers to something better that does embrace ousia and does embrace logos, the two things that are rejected for believers. That's it. That's the game. What's the mode of being for people in control of our life? Conflict. Caused by opposition of the self-logos words, in particular, limit. Fundamentally rejecting the most important things of life, in particular, ousia and logos, which solves problems and reaches excellence. So long as Abrahamic religions exist, there will be this kind of a person in conflict within themselves, rejecting ousia and logos, and identify with that state of being. Therefore, if we want to save our human species from destruction and extinction, we need to understand this and figure out what's the next stage upwards. Our new way of being that embraces ousia and logos. If we want to overcome our own internal conflict, because we all have a kind of belief like this called the pathologos, it's the same game. Human beings as individuals and as a species is guided by this way of being, a mode of existence of people within themselves in conflict and playing that out in the world. That's what it means to be captured by a belief, be it Abrahamic or pathologos. Thanks to the people in chat. Thanks to you who've come along with us. Thanks for reading along. That's a bombshell. I kind of want to keep reading though. Because now we've understood the nature of humanity, where we are at a level of evolution, and perhaps where we are as individuals, if pathologos fits this category. But I can't go to sleep until I find an answer. This is my second stream today. But this book is such a banger. Have a cookie. I'm glad, Sus. Making you think. I've had some cookie. I have some. I went to the movies yesterday. And I had some of this. I saw, I go to listen to the music to be inspired for my own music. I saw, there was an anime playing. I haven't seen an anime at the cinema before. But it was a recap of the first season of Jujutsu Kaisen. It was okay. If you haven't seen Jujutsu Kaisen, the movie's pretty good, but I'd seen the series before, so some of the shots were kind of nice. It's kind of portrayed the whole first season in an interesting way. The music was interesting. But I like music in cinemas that are all-encompassing. So I quite like the Fantastic Four and Superman films that I saw recently. So, the mode of existence of people who are captured by belief is that they are within themselves in conflict. This will persist as long as they have belief. So, our question from yesterday from our chatter: should we allow some belief for some people? To be captured by a belief puts people in conflict. Do you want people to be in conflict? Do you want to live in a world in conflict? Finish Jujutsu. Oh, are you a fan of the Jujutsu Kaisen? Don't get this knowledge every day. I know, isn't this book great? It's a banger. Actually, I need to turn on my fan. Topic. Alright.
Wow.
Jesus comes in. From this, I can see why you say that those who walk away from the Abrahamic religions are not at all likely to seek other spiritual systems unless those spiritual systems also lack the necessity for making general judgments. For while making such judgments is necessary in any metaphysical system, going up, metaphysical system, one of the questions we had is, what's a paradigm? Metaphysics, allowing you to make general statements because of the principles that exist there universally and beneficially for everyone always, apprehendable with understanding, graspable with ousia, as wisdom or nous. But people who leave Abrahamic religions are not looking for that. They're looking to get out of the ability to make generalized statements. So it is not so for the Abrahamic. Let's read that again. Those who walk away from the Abrahamic religions are not at all likely to seek other spiritual systems unless those spiritual systems also lack the necessity for making general judgments. For while making such judgments is necessary in any metaphysical system, it's not so for Abrahamic. I think I follow your reasoning about making negative judgments. It's very curious because it is necessary to think along the lines that you have expressed. It is necessary to think along the lines you have expressed. Remember, we're looking for a structure in his thinking so we can talk and think like him. You also took the example of this class of thinking to the limit. Took it to the limit. You found relations that must follow like stepping stones along a shallow stream. May I assume, my dear Socrates, that this way of thinking is expressed more purely in your tradition? So, people who leave Abrahamic traditions are not likely to seek metaphysics because they haven't grown up in that. They don't know what logos is. They don't know what ousia is. They don't know what nous and paradigms are, because all of those things have been rejected from their upbringing. Also, Jesus is noticing what we're noticing, that there seems to be stepping stones of thinking that has been guiding the conversation that Socrates has been guiding us through, that allows us to skip along a shallow stream. What we are calling the self-logos, the building blocks of understanding. And Jesus just asked, hey, by the way, is this system behind your thinking. Whoops. Is it expressed more fully in your tradition? Good question, my dear. Can we master it if we get into your tradition, Socrates, says Jesus? Socrates. You are correct in that, Jesus. You are a perceptive and a profound thinker. My dear Jesus, this mode of thinking is the dialectic. Yay, we love the dialectic. That's interesting because what we have seen is this movement through these stepping stones, but what we have formerly thought of as the dialectic was this. A series of general categories. Like, use a dialectic to define beauty. The subject in relation to itself, definition. It's an existence, it's harmony, it's eternity. How does it function itself to others or demonstrate? It illuminates the brilliant light of being so that we can seek it as human beings, especially in a loving relationship with someone open, generous, and seeking truth and understanding. How does that functioning affect others? Well, that means we can be a philosopher and affect other people and influence them to take on the task of seeking beauty itself through love and logos. Having been affected by that, so self itself, definition, how it functions to others, demonstration, others to others, division, and how can you synthesize that and then relate it back to the self, others back to self, to a conclusion. Having been affected by those sorts of people, how do other people relate back to beauty? They might become philosophers too and subscribe to this channel on Twitch and YouTube and Discord, and you can even donate and buy me a coffee if you want. But also, if beauty doesn't exist, what can you say about it? It's an image. How does it function? Tricks people into buying Coke. How do people function as a result of that? They seek ugly things. And how do people relate to beauty as a result? They say things like beauty is in the eye of the beholder and that kind of thing. So that's an example of the dialectic that we have been using up until now, which are 4 categories of reflection to encapsulate a subject, both if it is and if it isn't. But now we've got a new definition of dialectic that involves specific terms. Where are they? Here. One, many, whole, part, same, different, like, unlike, limit, and limitless. That's that Jesus said are like stepping stones that Socrates has been using to guide our reflection. That's interesting. How does that structure and these terms fit together? Let's keep reading. This mode of thinking is the dialectic, and it was formulated by one of my teachers, Parmenides. We love the Parmenides book. If you care to, you can see it in Plato's fine work called the Parmenides. I believe you can download the most accurate translation ever made, the Balboa translation, for free on the internet. And you can even go to the Awakening Philosophy YouTube page and read along with Jed. They go through the introduction of the Parmenides, where Parmenides outlines the dialectic as a puzzle. He even gives the highest example of the dialectic in the first hypothesis. And that first hypothesis is another playlist on the Awakening Philosophy YouTube channel. No wonder it's the most popular stream on YouTube and Twitch. More popular than Asmongold and Hassan Piker, they say. Can you believe such a thing? That's not in the book, but it's still true. Except for that popular part. But that will be true one day, maybe. So, if you care to see it, you can see the dialectic given by Parmenides to Socrates when he was a kid in the book Parmenides. You can find the Balboa translation online, and you can find the playlist on YouTube if you want to read along with that. There you will see a work that sets out all possible spiritual systems. Wow. In strict metaphysical terms. It outlines 4 major systems and their denials. And above and beyond these, you will find the very profound hypothesis of oneself. Wow. So that sounds like these 4 categories of the dialectic we just went through. For each of them, Parmenides gives a spiritual system. All possible spiritual systems. All possible spiritual systems. How many possible spiritual systems? All spiritual systems. You mean all the spiritual systems that have existed so far? No, all possible spiritual systems. You mean also any spiritual system that could be created, a new one in the future? Yes, that's all possible. You mean to say just some, but not the Eastern traditions? Yes, all possible. But not the Western ones? Yes, all possible. What about the spiritual systems that might come to birth or evolve in alien planets on other galaxies? Yes, is that a possible spiritual system? I guess so. Then it is included in here. Taoism is the first one. You'll find a spiritual system that represents that and this and this. 4 possible spiritual systems and their denials. In other words, fitting the categories of the dialectic, as well as one that transcends it, the first hypothesis of the one self. Parmenides' hypothesis. Isn't that neat? I think it's neat. Jesus, I have had thoughts that are akin to what you have said, but which lack the precision. I will be sure to go over them after our talk. You are quite right. Because of the precision, you will find there rests. Because of the precision you will find there rests upon making and using a distinction most of mankind does not make. We call the highest and most accurate idea of God the One. The highest and most accurate idea of God is called the One. Now, surely you can't say that some ideas of God are less, but what about the Muslims? What about the Jews? What about the Protestants? What about the Mormons? All spiritual traditions can be ranked based on truth, understanding, or strict metaphysical terms. And the highest and most accurate, not because it was my mummy and daddy's, not because it was my Trump presidents, not because it's the people that I support as a footy team, just rationally, objectively, universally, for now and for always, the highest, that's the significance of a paradigm, that's the significance of evolution, that's the significance of understanding. It ain't picking teams, it ain't killing non-believers. The highest and most accurate idea of God is the One. Socrates comes back. Come back, Soc. Here we go. In using the idea of one, you can link many ideas directly from that idea, and this is what gains precision in our thought. Consider the idea of oneness, wholeness, perfect, complete, unity, and others are naturally linked to the idea of the One. Those who traditionally use the idea of God instead of the One have a limited set of linking ideas. For in our philosophy, these notions form a natural unity, from which arguments about the supreme can be more easily made. Looks like we have a list. Oneness, wholeness, perfect, complete, and unity are members of a class that all are linked to the idea of one. How do you have oneness? Well, it's a quality of the One, right? Wholeness, all the parts coming together as one. Perfect, the kind of one that you are is a perfect representation of all of the forces upon your soul up until now. Talked about that earlier. Complete, all of the pieces of the puzzle have been put together to make it one. Unity, all of the aspects together as a unified whole or one. Using this as the model or the idea allows you to make purely rational, objective claims, statements, and understandings. Whereas if you use the idea of God, then you just muddy up the waters. But my God loves me. Yes, but my God loves me too. Yes, but my God loves me special because he doesn't like gay people. Yes, but my God hates women. Yes, but... See, doesn't go anywhere. It's just a mess. A natural unity from which the arguments about the supreme can be more easily made. Jesus. Another good point you've made, Socrates. Is there something else you might say about those who depart from Abrahamic religions? Yes, I could say they are in a desperate state. But whether or not it is better than being in the denial is something worth discussing. The negative side of their departure is that they do not seek a more direct participation in the spiritual life through any philosophical spiritual practice. Remember? They've gone down. All they know is religion, is the idea of God through religion, which has rejected understanding, which has rejected ousia and logos. So a lot of kids growing up in these traditions realize, holy fuck, this is religion? I'm out of here. Screw this religious, I'm a staunch atheist now. Piss off. I can't believe I've been oppressed my whole life with this horseshit. Which is tricky because they don't realize that true philosophy is a spiritual tradition that is based on reason and understanding in the highest possible way. It's not that God is irrational like these Abrahamic religions told you. It's that rationality itself is from the divine intelligence itself. Not as some God who hates you or you have to sacrifice to or punishes you. No. It's your own consciousness. Rationality comes from that. It is rational. It's the source of rationality. That's the difficulty. That's the desperateness. That's the difficulty. Another terrible consequence of allowing Abrahamic religions to exist. They do not seek a more direct participation, other than chanting Kumbaya at church, in the spiritual life through any philosophical spiritual practice, because it's never been a part of their thinking. Such believers seldom realize that what was forbidden and condemned has a lasting effect, so that even in leaving these religious systems, they still maintain much of what was taught to them to fear. To be suspicious of speculation. To consider ideas other than those that are based and anchored on particulars is considered by them to be foolish and sinful. Lacking completely in any participation of ousia. That's the big one. So yeah, should we just allow religions to exist? Fuck no. Even if you get out of that death cult, the fact that you have been taught your whole life to fear rationality, to fear speculation, to fear considering ideas, to fear yourself and the mind, has a lasting effect. So even if you get out of that cult, it will still be affecting you. They think such reflection, speculation about the divine is foolish and sinful. Therefore, you'll be completely lacking in any participation in ousia. Self-reflection, understanding, but also ousia is the capacity to know reality as the divine, as eternity, pure being, pure consciousness. So, what was forbidden and condemned has a lasting effect even when leaving these religious systems. They still maintain much of what they was taught to them to fear, to be suspicious of speculation, to consider ideas other than those that are based and anchored in particulars. Are you a Jew? Are you a Catholic? Are you a black? Are you a white? Are you a woman? That is considered to them to be foolish and sinful, lacking completely in any participation in ousia, which is the most profoundest mode of being. They gather within their common belief that they do not understand. And this binds them together. Atheists, right? We are bound together in a common belief that we do not understand. And this binds them together. Thus, when they leave, they retain... No, when I say atheists, it's a specific kind of atheist that when you were growing up in these things and then you reject it, but it's still... You are not open to... You're not agnostic. You're not open to spiritual experiences or understanding because you're still affected by your upbringing. That kind of atheist. Thus, when they leave, they retain their negative views, not realizing that these teachings were fundamental to their former beliefs. Wow. Another reason why we can't just tolerate terrible Abrahamic religious beliefs or anything else in that class. Not only does it limit and abuse people, keeping them in a state of conflict, rejecting Usia and Logos for the people in it, when you get out of it, well, still have problems. On that bombshell, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you had a fun time. I hope you found much to reflect upon. Thank you so much for our chatters today, for sharing your reflections and your experiences, which we need to add to our reading to solidify our understanding, to nail down our experience in understanding, and to test our understanding in our experience. That's part of the game. And what in understanding have we come to? Oh my goodness, super important. If you find it so, share it with your friends. Let us know how you go. You can follow along on Twitch, YouTube, join the Discord if you want, link below. There's a link to the text below as well. Check that out. And you can donate to the channel if you wish, link below. Thank you once again, and I'll see you in the next the next one.